So let's talk about the building the platform and the strategy first. So you always start with the end in mind. What is the end goal of writing this book? Okay, you want to sell more products and services. So what is your product or service, and who is it for? So you need to be very clear on your ideal target market, the pains, fears, frustrations, or ambitions that they're faced with. So if you don't know who your ideal target market is, you're not very clear on what struggles, hurdles, challenges that they have, and how your program, solution, service, product can benefit them, then don't even start writing the book. Put the pen down, get away from the typewriter. Typewriter, who uses those anymore? Get away from the keyboard, and until you actually figure that out, don't even bother, because you're just going to waste your time, and your message is going to get lost in a bunch of words that mean absolutely nothing. So get very clear on that. So if you are very clear on your ideal target market, pains, fears, frustrations, or ambitions, and you know how your product or service or solution can help them, then what you need to do is actually think about it this way. You need to frame your product or service or solution around their problem. By framing it around the problem, you're sort of inviting them or leading them down the path to come to the conclusion that you can help them, because they know what their problem is. A lot of times they know what their problem is. Sometimes they don't know what the problem is, and you actually have to make them aware that they have this problem, and then lead them down the path to the ultimate solution, which is working with you, buying your product X, or shopping in your store, or eating at your restaurant, or whatever it is. So once you're clear on the pains, fears, frustrations, ambitions, and then you know how your solution works around that and is able to answer those questions, then it's very easy to map out the book, because the book is just taking the reader on a journey to coming to the conclusion at the end of the book that they need to pick up the phone and call you, go to your website, get more information, or work with you, or buy your stuff, or go to your store, or whatever. So the book is the journey to get the person to take action. So how do you do that? Well, you need to be clear on the problems that you're solving for them and the benefits that these people are going to receive by the solution. So you take your solution and you break it down into what are the benefits of your solution. What benefit do they give your ideal target market? What benefit are they going to receive from actually using your product or service, eating at your restaurant, buying your clothes, shopping in your store, hiring you as a coach, as a consultant? What's the benefit that they're actually going to receive? So once you're very clear on the benefits that they can receive, then what you need to do is actually break those benefits down, and you can make them as specific chapters of the book, so that you're talking about, each book talks about a benefit that they receive, and these are all, the total benefits are the reason why they would be using your product or service. So breaking it down into all of these different benefits. So let's say that you have they receive 5 different benefits that for using your product or service, coming to your restaurant, your your clothing store, whatever, it doesn't matter, but they receive those specific benefits. So now you have to also think about, what objections do you get on a regular basis? So what are the objections that you hear from your clients or your target market all the time, that you're constantly overcoming these objections? And now what you do is you actually write about these objections in your book, but you call them myths. So let's say the 3 myths that people have when it comes to, say, rent to own, for example, because that's the space, I know it very well. So the 3 myths that people have when it comes to rent to own. So these actually myths are objections. So you talk about the myth the same way that you would overcome the person's objection when you're talking to them in person, but you frame it as a myth. So your book is overcoming the objections by talking about these myths, and it's talking about the actual benefits they receive by using your product or service. And all throughout the book, you're actually taking them on a journey to the conclusion that they need to buy your stuff, shop in your store, eat at your restaurant, hire you as a coach, hire you as a consultant. So the book just sort of leads them down that garden path to the oasis at the end, which is you. Okay? So you're answering the objections by calling them out as myths. You're talking about the benefits of your product or service or solution, and you're framing it around the problems. Okay? So that can help create the content for your book. Now, another strategy that made famous by one of my coaches, it's called the 10 by 10 by 4. And that's made famous by Mike Koenigs. And what that means is the 10 most frequently asked questions, the 10 questions your ideal client should be asking. Okay? So if you actually list the 10 frequently asked questions and the 10 questions that they should be asking, create those questions, come up with the answers, that can actually be the content for your book. So you have a couple different strategies as to creating the content. You can talk about the benefits and the myths, or you can do a 10 frequently asked questions, 10 should ask questions when it comes to your product, your service, your solution, your store, whatever it is. So those are two very distinctive ideas when it comes to creating your content. So if I came to you and I said, what your product or service, give me the 5 to 7 benefits I would receive by working with you or buying your stuff or whatever it is. And I'm quite sure you could rhyme off 5 to 7 different benefits that I would receive. I say, okay, well, what challenge does your product, service, solution overcome in your clients? So you would actually be able to tell me what the challenge is. So you now have the challenge, you understand the challenge, you have the benefits you receive, so you can actually talk about the benefits around that challenge. So if we were to actually sit and have a conversation, I'm quite sure that within a period of 2 hours, you could walk me through the benefits I'm going to receive by using your solution. You're going to overcome all the objections I could come up with, and you could, because you've probably heard them a dozen times or more. So usually price is one of them, or I don't think I can do that. Here's the objections to being a best-selling author. Okay, I'm not a writer. Well, what if I went like this? You know, one of the number one myths about being a number one best-selling author is people think that they actually have to know how to write. And I'm here to tell you that you actually don't even have to know how to write or use a typewriter or a computer, even if you have no pen or paper. Because you're able to actually create content without knowing how to write. So there's strategies around doing that where you can actually just record yourself talking, very much like this video. You just record yourself talking, having a conversation. Maybe you pull out your phone. Nowadays, every iPhone or every smartphone has a recording device, and you just start talking to your phone, coming up with the question, the objection, the question, the answer, the objection, the myth, overcoming that challenge, talking about the benefits. And by doing that, you have actually created an audio file for your book. And nowadays you can actually take those files, upload them to a website called Fiverr, Fiverr.com, and for $5 for 10 minutes, people will actually transcribe your audio into Word format. So when people say that, oh, I don't know how to, I can't be a best-selling author because I'm not very good at writing. Well, you don't actually have to know how to write. You just you just have to know your product, your service, your solution, be able to talk about it the frequently asked questions and answers, the should ask questions and answers, or the benefits and overcoming myths. Talk about it, send it out to get it transcribed. Once it's transcribed, you get it back, you piece it together in the format that you want to see it, then you send it to an editor. You can go to the same website, send it to an editor. There's all kinds of people on there that will edit your book very quickly, and they'll actually edit it so that they fix all the grammar, the structure, so it's actually like somebody who's a writer actually wrote the book. So typically you'll want to go through one or two different editing processes, pick a couple different people, and run it through there. So now that you created the content for your book, because we talked about the purpose, and if you're just joining us, we're talking about creating your book within 14 days or less, the structure, the purpose, why you're doing it. So now that you've created your content, you use your phone, you come up with the frequently asked questions, the should ask questions and answers, you talk them into your phone, or the benefits and the objections, which are myths. So you talked about those, that's going to create your content, and you structure it in such a way that when the reader reads the book, that as they go through the journey of your content, they get to the conclusion where they should actually be dealing with you or working with you. Okay. So what you need to be doing is, okay, so you've sent it out to Fiverr to get edited. So while it's being edited, what you need to do is come up with the title and the subtitle for your book. The title's typically less important than the subtitle. The subtitle is really talks directly to your ideal target market, their pain, fear, frustration, or ambition, and how this book is going to help them overcome those challenges. So it speaks directly to them. The title is less important. But there are some great title examples, like, for example, there's some formulas, a lot of great title formulas. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You can just take out the 7 and so you could say the 5 keys of building wealth. I just came up with that. Or the 3 flavors in a amazing souffle, or something like that. So, that could be the name of the book, but the subtitle is really geared towards who your ideal target market is, what the pain, fear, frustration, or ambition is that they're seeking help for, and how reading this book is going to offer them the solution. That is the biggest key. And you actually want to look up some keyword phrases that these people may be looking into. Okay, so now you have your title of your book, you have the subtitle, and usually you can come up with 10, 20 ideas fairly quickly, and you just narrow it down to 1. So once you actually have that, then on that same website, I'm just going to keep using the same website, Fiverr.com, because I'm sure I know I did my entire book using people on Fiverr.com, and it probably just cost between $100 and $200 total to get help to do my book. So I actually came up with the structure. I knew what the end goal of my second book was, to sell marketing systems to real estate investors. So I walked them through the journey of how, if they used this strategy and how they could actually build their own system. And then at the end, it's like, oh, I have one that's already built. But I walked them through the steps that they need to take in order to build their own system. So taking them to the conclusion that, hey, it's too much work for me, and I'm not that techie, and I don't know that stuff. Why don't I just buy the system or lease the system, because he's shown me in the book how much money I can make by doing this, and by utilizing this strategy and this system, I have a good idea of how much money I can make, and I know what's involved when it comes to the marketing aspect and building an online system and a marketing system. So he's told me how to do it and all about doing it, but at the end of the day, I just want somebody to do it for me, so I'll just use the system. So that was the end goal. So while you have people on Fiverr that are editing your book, you've now sent out to a few. I would recommend finding 5 or 6 people and different people to do your cover and pick the best one. So you spend $5 to each person, 5 different people. You figure out which is the best cover, and then once you find the best cover, then you go back to that person to get it basically in the Create Space format and the Kindle format. So once you get the editing copy back for your book. This is the edited text for your book, and you've proofread it. You've had somebody else proofread it, and it looks good to you. But maybe you've done 2 or 3 rounds of editing. That's okay.